The desert stretched endlessly beneath the burning sky, silent except for the whisper of sand sliding across stone. Cole guided his horse along the lonely trail, his shadow long and thin against the ground. He was almost home when a voice, cracked and weak, rose behind him like a ghost carried by the wind. "Cowboy, please." He turned slowly, hand hovering near his rifle. What he saw made him pause. A woman stood several steps away, barely upright, her body coated in dirt and dried sweat. Her clothes were torn and stiff with dust, her hair tangled and wild as desert thorns. She looked like she had walked out of the land itself. In her hand she held 2 crumpled dollar bills, pinched tightly as if they were the last thing keeping her standing. "I only have $2, she said, swallowing hard. "Please let me shower at your home." Cole studied her carefully. She was Apache, he could tell by her features, and the faded beadwork still, clinging to her wrist. Out here, that meant trouble. Old hatred didn't fade easily in the West. It slept beneath the sand, waiting to wake. His jaw tightened. Helping her could cost him his life. "Water's not cheap," he replied cautiously, though his voice lacked cruelty. "And strangers don't knock on doors out here without a reason." Her eyes lifted to meet his. They weren't pleading in the way he expected. They were tired, bone-deep tired, the kind that came from fear and endless walking. "I won't steal," she said quietly. "I won't stay. I just need to wash the dirt off me. I want to feel human again." The words hit harder than a threat ever could. Cole glanced at the horizon, then back at her shaking form. He had seen men beg before, but rarely with dignity still intact. After a long moment, he nodded once. "You can use the water." "That's it." Relief flickered across her face, though she tried to hide it. She followed him toward the ranch, her steps uneven but determined. As they walked, Cole noticed the marks on her arms, bruises, scratches, signs of a hard escape. He didn't ask. Some stories were better left unspoken. Behind them, far on a distant ridge, shapes moved against the fading sun. Neither the cowboy nor the woman noticed the watching eyes, or the danger already closing in, and carried on hooves and hatred through the gathering dusk. The small wooden bathhouse stood behind the ranch, its walls weathered by years of sun and wind. Cole filled the barrel in silence, the sound of water splashing echoing softly in the still evening. He pointed toward the door and stepped back, giving the woman space. She hesitated for a moment, clutching the $2 in her hand, then nodded and disappeared inside. When the door closed, the desert seemed to breathe again. Steam slowly rose as water poured over skin that had known only dust and pain for far too long. Inside, the woman leaned against the wall, her knees trembling as the first clean drops touched her. She closed her eyes, letting the water run through her hair, carrying away layers of dirt and fear. The stains of the road vanished, but the memories stayed, heavy and sharp. Faces, shouts, hands pulling her back when she tried to run. She forced them away, focusing only on the warmth and the sound of falling water. Outside, Cole sat on the porch, his rifle resting across his knees. He kept his eyes on the horizon, though his thoughts were elsewhere. He told himself he was only being cautious, that he had made a simple trade, water for money, but his unease said otherwise. He hadn't helped her for the $2. He'd helped her because something in her voice had reminded him of a man he used to be. Before the land hardened him, when the bathhouse door finally creaked open, he looked up. The woman stepped out wrapped in a worn blanket he had left by the door. Clean water had revealed the strength in her face, the sharp lines of survival etched into her skin. She looked younger now, but no less worn. "My name is Nia," she said softly. "Thank you." Cole nodded. "You should leave soon. Night brings the wrong kind of people." Her fingers tightened around the blanket. "They already know where I am." Before he could ask what she meant, a distant sound rolled across the plain, the unmistakable thunder of hooves. Cole stood, his body tensing as his eyes scanned the darkening land. Shapes moved in the distance, slow and deliberate. Nia's voice dropped to a whisper. "They took my people. I escaped. They don't forgive that." Cole lifted his rifle, jaw set. The desert fell silent again, but this time it wasn't peaceful. It was waiting. The water had washed the dirt from her skin, but it had also brought her past to his door. and there would be no turning away from it now. Moonlight spilled across the ranch yard as the riders closed in, their silhouettes cutting through the pale glow like dark scars. Cole stood near the doorway, rifle steady in his hands, every sense sharpened by the weight of what was coming. Behind him, Nia remained still, her spine straight despite the fear pressing in around them. She had run far to survive, and she would not beg again. A voice rang out from the darkness, rough and confident. "Hand her over, cowboy. She's worth more alive than dead." Cole took a step forward, boots sinking slightly into the sand. "You're on my land," he replied evenly. "That means you're already closer to dying than you think." A tense laugh followed. The riders spread out, circling slowly, guns glinting under the moon. Cole counted them with a glance. Too many for comfort, but not enough to make him surrender. The desert had taught him one thing well. Sometimes standing your ground was the only law that mattered. The first shot shattered the silence. Cole fired back without hesitation, the recoil slamming into his shoulder as one of the riders fell. Horses screamed and reared, chaos erupting in a burst of gunfire and dust. Bullets tore through the night, striking wood and earth. Cole moved with practiced precision, using the shadows and the walls of the ranch as cover. Each shot measured, each breath controlled. Nia pressed herself against the doorway, heart pounding. She wasn't armed, but she refused to hide completely. Every sound reminded her of what she had escaped, yet this time she was not alone. When a rider broke through the circle and rushed forward, she grabbed a loose plank and struck him with everything she had. He went down hard, stunned by her desperation. The fight ended as quickly as it began. Some riders fled into the darkness, unwilling to die for a price. Others lay motionless in the sand, claimed by the land they had tried to rule. When the dust finally settled, the desert was quiet once more. At dawn, Nia stood at the edge of the ranch, the sky painted in soft gold. Cole handed her the $2 she had offered the day before. She tried to refuse, but he shook his head. "You needed water," he said. "I needed to remember honor still matters." She nodded, emotion flickering in her eyes. Without another word, she turned and walked toward the horizon, carrying her freedom with her. Cole watched until she disappeared, knowing that sometimes a stranger arrives with nothing, yet leaves behind a reminder powerful enough to change a man forever.